In the middle of the day, the sun reflected off the multicoloured tiles. The sound of the people echoed against the high ceilings. Statues had been placed beside the square windows, and the light came in through the thousands of panes of glass. Young girls screamed when they had a glimpse of their favourite pop star, and the whole of that huge glass dome was filled with their cries. Everywhere you looked, you could see that there were people. Some hurried by on their way to other places, but some paused to enjoy a coffee or a chat with a friend. Some talked as they walked, eager to see the sights and enjoy the sounds in the packed square. The waves crashed against the jagged rocks and left a salty taste in the air. The fishermen had finished for the day as people bobbed in the cold sea like lost sea lions. In the distance, the last tip of the island could be seen, and still the sea rolled and roared. Driven by the wind, the sea licked at the shore and washed the footsteps of the tourists from the soft grains of sand. The weathered fence posts held the last bits of barbed wire at the top of the dry stone walls, but the sheep had no intention of leaving these vast windy moors. At the bottom of the hills the water lay flat and calm, with hardly a tree or a house in sight. The walls separated the different fields as the wind gusted and tugged at the dry tussocks of grass. Cars zoomed past, always on the move, with drivers who would not look at the savage beauty of these green hills. The dark tar of the road cut pathways through this backbone of England. The night was as dark as it was cold. The street lamps left pools of light on the cobbled streets and pavements that had once held trains. The still shining tracks glistened in the lamplight. Only a very few cars ventured into the cold, and even fewer people dared to walk by the side of the white painted fence. Taxis took people to the brilliantly lit clubs, casinos and conference centres, where they would be safe and warm, and as far from the cold outside as 4 high brick walls could make them. The cars, with their new shining number plates, waited like obedient horses, waited for their owners to take them back to their homes, far away from the cold city centre. It was high at the top of the cliffs, and the steps were steep. The only ones who seemed to be safe were the plants that clung to the fragile soil of the sandstone and the seagulls that squawked and screeched in the air. The picnic tables and chairs were set out as if it was still summer, and the shining umbrellas of the heaters could not keep the autumn wind from taking your breath away. The sand was flat, but the sea-beaten round pebbles pushed their way to the steps and balcony of this seaside restaurant. Getting closer to the bottom of the steps, the cliffs seemed steeper, but somehow safer. You could see the layers of the rock covered in the thin film of green mould. The last few steps were made of wood that were worn flat by footsteps. By the edge of the church, the tall telegraph poles cast long shadows on the cut grass and seemed to reach towards the leafless trees at the foot of the hills. The cottages, with their pink stones and neatly cut hedges, stood guard on the road as the early winter's sun brought the afternoon to a close. Chimney pots that had not seen smoke for a long time still stuck proudly up from out of the old tiled roofs. This was a busy road, lined with cars and filled with bustling cars. The hills had always been there and had seen the town grow and change. The houses waited and watched as another day came to an end. The sweet smell of trampled grass filled the air as the white canvas of the backstage tent rippled in the light wind. 2 old horse boxes and a stained fence provided some shelter for the delicate electrical equipment and the clown's props. The velvet tunnel that led to the main ring was dark and wide. It was the smell of the wood shavings mixed with the age of the canvas that hit you as you entered the ring. The lights were off, and the string of flags didn't seem so bright, but the seats were ready and waiting for an audience. Above your head, you could see the trapeze strapped to the central girder by 2 thin wires. The big top was ready. The ring needed the ringmaster. The seats just needed to be filled. All of the lights were burning brightly, but there was hardly anyone on the street to see them. Tram lines cut through the middle of the road, and a rainbow of neon was blotted out by the passing taxis' headlamps. The coded blinking of the signs could still be seen in the flat square windows of the hotel. The neat rows of parked cars outside let you know that visitors were enjoying the swimming pool, sauna and gym. The cars glittered in the reflected glory of this seaside town. No one stood still long enough to take in the sights of this well-lit town. The room was more bed than room, but it had everything that you would need: somewhere to keep your clothes, a clean white towel, and an unmade bed. The sink looked huge, reflected in the corner of the 2 tall mirrors. There were white walls, a white ceiling, and a white blind. It would be easy to spot any belongings. 2 cases, 2 bags, a camera case and a computer cascaded and spilled from the small desk that was just below the small television. By the side of the television there was a handle that would open a window to the outside. The traffic was forced to snake its way either side of the wide, empty canal. The water might have stopped flowing, but the river of cars, buses and scooters had to keep rolling. Building work left dirty cabins and containers to further clog the easy flow of traffic. Tourists had seen the canal full of water, but had to make do with the slow trickle of mud that would one day become a fast-flowing stream. Even though the sun was shining, it was cold for the time of year, as city dwellers muffled themselves in hats and padded jackets as they dodged the torrent of cars and made their way along the graffiti-stained streets and bridges. As soon as the sun had gone down, the last trace of colour left the town at the end of the railway line. It was difficult to tell the difference between the cloud-streaked sky and the grey-roofed, high white walls of the broad townhouses. The barren trees shivered in the dark New Year's wind and cast harsh shadows on the pavement below. The train line caught what little light there was and overlooked the gardens and lives of everyone who had chosen this place so far from the city's heart. There may have been no colour here, but the city knew that it would continue to survive and wait just for the next rainbow. With the distant roar of the road and the even more distant town, the tangled mass of branches looked like bleached rib cages and helpless fingers stretching into the night. The finest twigs were lined with scarring buds that would claw and clutch at your clothes and skin. Looking down at the ground, you could see that there was a small gap between the dense undergrowth. Disturbing the rotten leaves would be the only way of being able to get out of this place.